Alright, so the start of the fight, you get one archer. The main thing with the archer is going to be the mana shot. If you get hit by a mana shot, you're going to lose all your mana and not be able to complete the rest of the scenario. So really important you don't get hit by that mana shot. Generally speaking, you can pre-hot right around when Granny starts talking. So I pre-hot my tank, and then immediately after, they usually charge in. At the start of the fight, you can use Vortex to prevent the first mana shot. So I put Vortex down about 10% in. Then I start hotting through just the random damage she does. You can see the Vortex interrupts the mana shot. Then it triggers your Sufuzu's Secret. I'm using that legendary. Then I spam Wrath to avoid getting a second mana shot phase. After she's dead, you're going to get one archer and one mage. So the archer is the same thing. You want to avoid the mana shot. But the mage is going to stack up damage every time he casts Arcane Blitz. So around 4 or 5 stacks, you want to use Bash. So you dodge mana shot by moving through Jared. You stun Arcane Blitz to stop the damage and stop the stacks. Then immediately spam heal Jared through the mana shot. Every mana shot on one of your guys is going to do the most damage. You want to make sure life bloom's on them and you're focusing your heals. After that, you're just line of sighting through Jared to avoid mana shot. The NPCs will kill off the mage. And then again, I use Iron Bark here on Jared for that mana shot so I can save some mana myself and heal him. And you're just raid healing. Dealing with one archer is typically the easiest scenario. So Mana Sting again hits Jared, so I make sure Life Bloom and Full Hots are on Jared. You then want to start pre-healing him, so you Swift Man him, whatever. And then I set up a Mushroom or Vortex. So I use Vortex here again. That prevents a mana shot. Also slows down some damage, and you get some free damage as well. Spam Wrath with Sufuzu's Secret to finish him off before another mana shot phase. Then after this, I believe you get one warrior, one mage. So the mage again is going to stack up Arcane Blitz. You want to make sure you bash him around 4 or 5 stacks. The Risen Soldier uses Knife Dance, so you want to make sure you Wild Growth every Wild Dance. And then focus your heals. Typically you want to bash the mage right on that. And then after the Knife Dance, he immediately enrages and targets you, so you jump in bear form. After the enrage, you can easily tank him in bear without doing anything. Then you just start topping your team through the raid damage. This is where he's going to go for another Knife Dance phase. Right around the Knife Dance phase is when you want to go for a Wild Growth. So you Wild Growth immediately. That should be typically enough so you can heal efficiently with Healing Touch instead after that. And then Enrage means you jump in bear form. You can dish out damage with Mangle and Thrash while you're in bear form and easily heal through the damage with Frenzy Regeneration. Then after the Enrage, he takes a couple seconds before he does another Knife Dance phase. Typically if you're doing damage to him in bear form, you might be able to kill him before this actually does too much relevant damage. Once he's dead, you're going to get a mage and 2 warriors, which means 2 knife dances, which is a lot of damage. You want to make sure you pre-hot your whole team. I use Innervate here to get a Wild Growth going. And then again, you want to stun the mage when knife dance is happening or you may die. Like, it's a lot of pressure here. I actually use Tranquility because of how much damage is going out. And I Vortexed one of the warriors away from the Enrage on the Hunter. Not something that you need to do, just something I noticed that I could get away with, so I did it. And then I'm constantly pre-hotting during this phase. This is one of the harder phases at the start to heal through with double Knife Dance. So I Swiftman immediately and then try and heal through it. Using the artifact here could be useful as well. I was kind of saving my artifact Ganir for the final phase because I didn't have too much. But again, when they enrage, you just jump in bear form. You can easily tank through it. Then there's a bit of a pause for you to pre-hot during the pause, and then you wait for them to start channeling Knife Dance. There's Knife Dance. You should immediately look for Wild Growth soon after. I tried to get a Soul of the Forest Wild Growth for the most efficiency in healing. And then immediately after Knife Dance, they will always enrage and target you, so you want to jump in bear form so you don't get one shot. Then you can just tank the one guy out for his enrage, then start hotting the team through the normal raid damage. Here towards the end of the phase, I'm starting to plan the end. If you think that it's going to be super difficult, you can use your Drums of Battle on the next 3 set of ads. If you're low mana or you're running out of cooldowns. Here I felt comfortable because I had Barkskin, On-Use Trinket, and Iron Bark in my artifact, so I don't use Drums of War. It's just going to save you 3 minutes later. I guess it'd be better to be safe than sorry and use Drums here. It's a lot of damage right at the start, so you want to make sure you're overhealing, you're activating your artifact. I Vortex the mana shot, so right at the start of that phase, I put Vortex down. That'll interrupt the mana shot, I don't have to deal with it. Then I look to stun the mage when he's stacked up Arcane Blitz, and then you're just spam healing through Knife Dance as much as possible for this phase. I think I might even use a Mana Pot at this part, and then you have to dodge Mana Sting again. So you just go through Jared, and then spam heal Jared after it's happened. I traded Iron Bark there because there was a lot of raid damage with Knife Dance as well. So Iron Barking him and then spam healing through the raid. He's still in rage, so you just jump in bear form, dodge the mana sting by running through Jared, so the blue arrow will dictate where the mana sting goes. Then the enrage ends, immediately heal the mana sting damage on Jared, and the raid damage as well. As soon as the corrupted risen soldier is dead, it becomes pretty easy to deal with the rest of the phase, but you want to make sure you're just dodging mana sting. If you get hit by any of these mana stings and you're not very geared, you're likely to fail. I did this in full PvP gear, so my stats were not itemized whatsoever. It's very difficult. And then at the end, I tried to bash before the mana sting, but if you get it unfortunately like that, it will still go off. If I had been able to stop that, it would have saved me a lot of mana. And then after that bash stop, I try to use my vortex. I wait a couple seconds after the mana sting, that way the vortex doesn't fade, and that way you can reliably stop it right here, prevent any damage, give yourself free time. After stage 1, it's very easy. You just drink. There's no rush. You're not forced to go through this fast at this point. You want to drink and make sure that you get full mana at this point. It's pretty easy after that. When you're starting the fight, you want to make sure that you have food, you have your elixir, your flasks, whatever. It's very difficult to do this. I wouldn't suggest doing it without that stuff. But when you get into this small room, you want to pre-hot yourself with 2 rejuves, and then you'll be stunned for a little bit of time. After the stun, eyeballs will spawn all around you. Don't panic. Just look at the eyeball in front of you. Get ready to dot it with Moonfire and Sunfire. Once it's dotted with Moonfire and Sunfire, you can start spamming Wrath on it. Kill the eyes one at a time. Don't get greedy. Don't try and AoE them down. When the eyeballs die, they're going to blow up and do a ton of damage to you. So if multiple eyes die at the same time, you're probably going to lose. The 2 pre-hot rejuves should save you, and then typically you can either Life Bloom or Swift Mend in between. So then I start dotting another eye. I top myself off before the eyes die. You also may want to pre-hot yourself a little bit. It can be a lot of damage. I even jumped in bear form to try and frenzy. I think in this attempt I tried using bear form more than anything to heal through the explosion damage with frenzy. After 2 eyes are dead, kill another eye. Just don't get anywhere near them. If you get near them, they blow up too. And just constantly pre-heal yourself. I use frenzy for most of this. This phase isn't too hard as long as you don't panic. Just make sure you're dotting the targets and casting Wrath and then moving away from the eyeballs that are still alive. After you've killed all the eyeballs, the next phase is also fairly easy. You want to make sure you don't get touched by these green orbs. You just want to kill them with Moonfire. Here you just want to dot up all of the ads as much as you can. It's not very difficult. The timer for this isn't super strict, so I play it safe with this by going in bear form using Thrash, Mangle, and Moonfire to kill the targets, and then healing through the damage with Frenzy Regen. Basically, you're a Guardian Druid for this pull. The bats enrage when they get low health, so you want to be careful with that. You could probably come out once all the bats are dead if you wanted to apply Sunfire. Here I think I was just being lazy because the clock isn't super strict. But yeah, you can come out, apply that, maybe cast Wrath instead, it's more DPS. But if you just want to be lazy and play it more safe, then using bear form is going to be just as effective. After this, you're going to be opening a gate. There's 4 ads. One of the ads is feared. You want to dispel that ad. I'm running Safuzu's Secret, which will give me haste when I dispel it. So I target the ad through the gate while I'm opening it, and then I dispel the ad and immediately pop Innervate with my Troll Racial, and I apply 2 rejuves to the 3 ads with arrows above their head. That will maintain their health. If they die, you won't make it through, so you need to make sure that they all survive. You can Wild Growth them, rejuve them back to full. Pretty easy to heal through them in general. Once they're topped off, then you've got another Archer at the top who does the same as she did in the first phase of the fight, which is Mana Sting. So I pre-hop myself a little bit. I pop my on-use trinket. You don't need to be super greedy with your cooldowns. You can bark skin basically whenever you want on this fight. You just want to Vortex the Archer, so that way when she does her Mana Sting, she'll get pulled back and interrupted on it. You can also use the ghosts that you healed to soak the mana shots for you, which is another strategy if you're not a druid. Other than that, I use Vortex to interrupt the first Mana Sting, and then I spam Wrath and use my bark skins to tank, and then I use Bash on the second Mana Sting, and typically the Vortex and the Bash is enough time to get through this phase without even having to use the Ghost on the side. Then when she's dead, you go through another gate. This is a pretty easy phase. Just use Moonfire and Sunfire to deactivate the orbs as you run through. Pretty basic. You're just going to do whatever, tap target to them, just eliminate the orbs. Don't walk into the orbs when they're still alive. Sunfire is easier because it's AoE, so it cleaves the orbs and you can run through multiple. Then when you get to the top, you open another gate, which is a corruptor, and 3 eyes. The eyes that are exactly the same as the first room in the second phase. So you want to stay away from them and focus them. So you dot them up. I use Barkskin immediately because he spawns lasers on top of you as well, which can RNG maybe kill you if you're unlucky. So and immediately hot yourself and top yourself with Swiftman, then focus down another eye, fully dotting it, killing it down with Wrath. Once you get past the first eye and you haven't unluckily died to laser spawns, then it's pretty easy. Just focus down the rest of the eyes, move around the room, try not to stand in the lasers. I just use my Iron Barks and Barkskins because you're going to get a break after this phase, so there's no reason to not just be safe and make sure you're super tanky and don't die to anything that's random. Maintain dots, move away. You can also just use your bash towards the end of the fight too, and that'll allow you to free cast safely, kill the Dread Corruptor, which then will take you to stage 4, which is probably the hardest stage in the entire thing. But here you get a break, so make sure you drink mana, make sure you double check your flasks, make sure that all of your cooldowns are available, because this next phase is the most difficult phase in my opinion in the entire scenario to deal with. Basically, the 3 allies that you have at the start will be attacking each other, while the boss spawns 3 Night Elf ghosts that you need to heal before they reach the center, much like the Immersius fight in Mists of Pandaria. So you want to make sure that you're focusing those ads moving into the center. They spawn in 2 different formations. One is a spread out triangle. You want to use Tranquility during the spread out triangle. Then when there's 2 that are next to each other, you should use Wild Growth and focus on the 2 ads that are next to each other. Ignore the 3rd ad. You actually want 1 or 2 ads to survive so that you get a mana break at the end of this phase. Here I started a stopwatch when I opened the gate, and in around 40 seconds is when you want to start pre-hotting your allies. That way you don't need to waste time hotting them when the Night Elf ghosts spawn. So at the start of the fight, there's a little bit of role-playing. Generally speaking, the rogue and the warrior, or the rogue and the hunter in your group, are squishier than the warrior, and you really want to keep an eye on them. You're going to use Iron Bark on them during this phase, and you're going to use Iron Bark probably twice in this phase if you do it properly. So around 40 seconds there, I start pre-hotting my party, put Wild Mushroom down on them because they attack each other, and then set up Wild Growth. You want to make sure they're as healthy as they can be before the boss in the center spawns the 3 Night Elf ghosts. So you're looking for the 3 lasers, green lasers. And what I said before, if it's a triangle, very spread out like this, you want to use Tranquility. It's the only way you're going to heal all 3. After your Tranquility, then you want to start targeting them. Generally speaking, I think I did like Rejuve, Swiftmend, or maybe Swiftmend, Rejuve. That will top that one. Then I use another Swiftmend, Regrowth to top the other, and then I use Rejuve, Regrowth to top the final one. That's pretty complicated. I don't know if you necessarily have to do it in that order. Either way, now you can see the rogue takes a lot of damage. You're going to have to Iron Bark the rogue immediately after. Then you want to try and set up a Wild Mushroom before this phase. I use my artifact weapon because this is a stacked up group of 2. So I'm focusing on healing the 2 on the left and ignoring the 1 on the right. I can't save the 1 on the right. There's not enough HPS. I need Wild Growth on the 2 on the left. Then I've saved the 2 on the left, which means I'm going to have 1 ad moving into the next phase, which is fine. Immediately after those 3 are done, start hotting your raid again. Start healing them up. It seems like they're focusing the hunter or the warrior, so I'm trying to keep life bloom on them. Make sure Wild Mushroom is down. This is a spread out fight. I actually wasted a rejuvenation there. I should have focused on the 2 that are together and ignored the 1 that was by himself. You can use Wild Growth, Rejuve, Regrowth, whatever. You should be able to heal the 2 that are together fairly easily before they reach the target, but you'll never be able to save the 3rd one on the side, unless maybe you're super geared. Either way, then focus back on healing your raid. The hunter and the warrior are killing each other, so you need to spam heal them. If they die, you lose, so I prioritize them a little bit here because I only need 1 more ad to make it through the phase. I use double Rejuve. I have no Swiftmend, so I just spam Regrowth until the guy is back to full HP. After this phase, because 1 ad got through, we'll get a break. If you make it where no ads get through, you will not get a break to drink. I recommend that you let 1 ad at least go through. 1 or 2 is survivable. If you can't do this phase and you allow 5 ads to go through, you're likely going to lose and wipe. So you may want to just be prepared for that. You want to get through that phase with only 1, 2, or 3 ads alive. Use the time to drink, then start pre-hotting again. And the phase is going to start with the 2 ads that I let through, which are 2 sword NPCs, which do the knife dance and the enrage mechanics. So knife dance is AoE, they always start with it. I bash 1 so that there's not 2 knife dances going on at the same time. I don't know if this is necessarily the right move. It reduces the AoE, but then it makes it hard to juggle. Then I jump in Bear to tank the one in Rage. The other Knife Dance is easily dealt with, and he goes down. I don't know if you need to do it that way. I just felt it was easier than trying to heal through 2 Knife Dances. You need as much mana as possible moving into the final phase, so I wanted to break it up like that. Then I just tank him out in Bear form. I prepare for the Knife Dance by hotting my Raid. Wild Growth is the most effective heal for Knife Dance. And then the boss will spawn. When he spawns, he targets you for a couple seconds. You want to be careful with that. He might accidentally kill you. So I immediately just stabilize myself. This is the hardest mechanic in the fight. This debuff, you want to make sure that you're below 50%, so I click my heal over time effects off. You want to try to be as close to 50% as possible so it does less damage to your raid. So right there, the fire does no damage to the NPCs, and immediately spam heal the NPCs back up. You're going to be fairly safe at about half health, so I use Healing Touch instead of Hots to try and keep myself at half. There's the debuff again. So this debuff, I want to be as low as possible, but not die to fire or die to a jump. So I've got Renewal as my talent, which is a big heal. So if I see him jump on me right when I'm low health, I can use Renewal if I need to, or Swiftman. Then I pick myself back up, get Hots going on my raid. It's important to get yourself low, so I run into the fire a bit because I overhealed myself there. I didn't need to heal myself that much. I may need to also just take more damage, so I'm just going to tank in the fire, try and get as low as I can so that when the debuff goes off, it does less damage to my raid. As soon as the debuff's about to go off, you start healing the raid. And again, he's got this AoE fire, so you want to try not to spread that around as much as possible. It's interesting is that in this phase, it doesn't actually matter if you die. If your NPCs are healthy enough to kill him, you will still win the fight. So focus on healing the ads when the room starts getting flooded with fire if you're very close to a kill. And again, when you're low health like this, just let the debuff go off. It does less damage. I used Innervate here to try and spam heal because you can see the room is flooding. I'm basically freaking out at this point in the fight because he's so low, so I focus on doing damage, and I focus on healing Jared because he's main tanking the damage. He's going to take all of the damage after you die. I try to move closer to get as much fire as possible. And then at this point, the room is basically covered. I've got no options left. I try my best to make it not spread by moving over, but now the entire room is flooded. So I have no other choice. Hot the raid, stay alive as you can, as long as you can, and the NPCs can actually finish him off towards the end of the fight on their own. And then you're gonna have your challenge mode appearance. It's important to know for the talents that I took on this fight was Renewal and Stonebark instead of Flourish, so I could use Stonebark twice on that phase where your allies are attacking each other. Renewal is also just better in general for this whole instance. If you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, Renewal will always be the heal that you can use to save yourself. Generally speaking, that's how I got myself through it. I had a 913 item level with PvP gear, which means I did not have good stats. I had about 14% haste. I think it's recommended that you have 25 to 30% haste. Either way, I hope that this guide helps you out and allows you to be successful. Until next time, Super T's signing out.